Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is January 21st, 2021. Look at that, 1212021. I'm going to play the lottery later. We have a really good show planned for today. We're going to be talking about some serious stuff. We're going to be joined in just a moment by Jerry Negrotto of the Nothing Hidden organization to talk about teenage mental illness. Do you know that 1 out of 5 teenagers today of that age commits suicide? When I saw that statistic, I was shocked. I didn't know that. In fact, suicide is the second leading cause of death in that age group. Wow. Like, how did I not know that? I'm shocked. And parents really struggle. They want to do what's best for their child. Depending on, who they first start talking to, they could be sent down the wrong road. The Nothing Hidden organization has been doing a lot of work to try to give parents the tools to understand how to proceed. Later in the show, we're going to talk about something called sustainable, and now there's regenerative. Regenerative farming promises to actually make the planet better through agriculture instead of taking away and making the planet worse. So that should be a fascinating discussion as well. Before we get started, of course, we have to thank our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. Eatlegendary.com is their website. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10, you can save 10% off everything they have there. If you don't like sugar in your diet, then Legendary Foods is where you want to go. They have a new tasty pastry, which is called birthday cake flavor, with 0 sugar and 20 grams of high-quality, high-leucine protein. And it tastes amazing. And if you listen for the secret word, which happens during a commercial break, and then email me at onair@superhumanradio.net, the secret word that you heard, you are in the running for a free box of birthday cake tasty pastry. This is really easy. We give away 1 box a day. Your odds are very good. Just listen during the commercial break. Email the secret word to me at onair@superhumanradio.net and you're entered. Easy stuff, folks. Very easy stuff. Also, just want to remind everybody, the last Friday of this month, we're bringing back Casual Friday with TLAT, Elisa Profumo. A lot of you have been upset that we took Casual Friday off the air. It's coming back. If you have topics that you want us to cover on Casual Friday, for those of you who never heard Casual Friday before, it's more of a news magazine type of a episode where we just talk about stuff in the news. I try to be as funny as possible. I don't always succeed. Elisa brings the softer side of the show, but also a lot of good science to talk about. If you have a topic you want us to cover, email it to email it to Casual Friday @superhumanradio.net. And don't miss the reemergence of this very, very popular show. Okay, now without further delay, I bring my guest on. Welcome to the show, Jerry Negrotto. How are you?
Good, thank you, Carl. I'm glad to be here, man. This is a hot topic right now. Pandemic has increased mental health issues with teens by, they're saying 30% now. We got enough time and data. It was bad before. Now just think of a 30% increase in mental health conditions and struggles with teens right now. It's a difficult situation for parents.
Now, this show is going to focus on solutions, but we really can't talk about this unless people understand where you're coming from and why you have even taken, you and your wife, Tracy, have made this a life mission now. And there's a reason for that. Can you tell us kind of the Reader's Digest version of it?
Yeah, our daughter took her life about a year and a half ago after struggling with mental health for probably 5-6 years. And we didn't know it. We were focused on her behavioral issues, sent her to the different programs and treatment centers, and really missed that it was from a mental health standpoint that she was struggling and medicating herself with alcohol and drugs because she wasn't diagnosed. And she came back from a program that she had asked us, actually, Mom, send me to this program. I want to get better. I'm done with this. I want to get my life together. And when she came back, they said that she was treatment resistant. That's what we kept hearing. All these programs, I think it was five of them in less than 2 years. She's treatment resistant. But at this particular program she was at, they did a brain mapping for neurofeedback. And when she came home, she said, something's wrong with my brain. Can we try to figure that out? But unfortunately, by the time we got her home, her eating disorder had looped for the second time, and she was at in such a bad condition with her eating disorder. It just took her down. She lost hope. Her brain shut down, her body shut down, and she decided that she couldn't wait any longer to try to get better. With that, losing her life, our thought was, man, if the death of our daughter can save other kids' lives, we will not be silent. That's our mantra, and that's our mission now. So a lot of what we learned.
What's her name?
Her name was Bella Rose.
Okay. I want so many different tangents I want to go off on, and very, very important ones. So a lot of parents don't realize that mental illness can show itself in very innocuous ways. Now, Bella suffered from anxiety, right?
She had a high anxiety disorder, which morphed itself into eating disorder. But statistically speaking, and I'm just going to read this right here from the CDC, is that they say that kids with one disorder, mental health, that 1 in 3 teenagers will have a dual diagnosis. They'll have 2 mental illnesses running in tandem with one another. So she had a high anxiety disorder and depression that would run in tandem with one another, which just complicates it even more. But that's very common in teenagers.
Now, when these conditions show themselves, it's usually around puberty. Was it that way for Bella as well? Or did she have signs and symptoms even before puberty?
It was probably, it was 14. Yeah, 14 years old. NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Health, they tell you, I'll read the statistic right here, that onset of mental illness is 13 to 14 years old.
And this is puberty. And I want the parents listening to this show to keep note of a couple things here. Because at puberty is when your sex hormones start to rise. And your body actually is prepared for these sex hormones to start to rise. So just keep that little piece of information separate for a little second. So what were the first manifestations? Was it just the anxiety, or did the eating disorder show up early on as well?
We found a lot of this information out from Bella on the back end when she came home from that last program, where she totally opened up to us because she wanted help. But she told us her eating disorder really manifested itself about 3 years prior to us even finding out that she had an eating disorder. That's very easy to hide. My wife was very skinny girl when she was younger. So we just thought that because she was skinny, and she had so much energy that, in the morning she just didn't want to eat because, she wanted to get to school or she wanted to get to wherever she was doing for the day. So it's easy to overlook. So we,
I was just thinking when you said it's easy to overlook, I want to stop there for a second, right?
Yeah.
Parents, when something like this happens, we look at ourselves. We're like, what did I do wrong? What did I miss? What, how did I not catch this? So, we expect ourselves to be super parents and we should know these things. But the reality is eating disorders and anxiety sounds like just about every teenager out there today. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
Every teenage girl wants to look a certain way and probably modifies her diet as such. And I mean, I know so many young kids that have anxiety. It's just flabbergasting. And most parents just think, well, the stress of school, the stress of after school events and sports. They're staying up late because they have all this homework to do. They're getting up early and running to school. You have more and more teenagers using caffeine today to make ends meet, so to speak. And so what kid doesn't have anxiety today?
Yeah, and that's true, Carl. And this is something that we teach parents at our live mental health workshops and in our coaching when we meet with parents. And this is huge thing is that there's what we're going to consider situational circumstantial anxiety, and then there's clinically diagnosed anxiety. And then the third thing is it's almost a cool thing for a teenager to say that they have anxiety or depression. It's in their language all the time. But from the standpoint of a parent understanding that situational and circumstantial anxiety, that's something that's going to go away in 4 to 6 weeks. That's something they can walk alongside their teenager with and coach them and use it as teaching moments on life and the difficulties of life. Example, let's say your kid he's 17 years old. He's got this girlfriend and it's the one he's going to marry, right? It's the hottie. He's convinced he's going to marry her. She breaks up with him, so he goes out and he decides, man, I'm going to get drunk tonight. Comes home 3 hours late. You see him when he comes home. He's drunk. He's late. You're wondering, the first thing you're going to do is probably be punitive, right? Let's ground him for a month. We're going to take the car keys away. He just lost his girlfriend who he thought he was going to marry. Okay. There's a reason for him to be depressed.
Right.
Okay? That's situational, circumstantial depression. You're going to walk with your kid alongside them, walk them through these 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they're going to be fine on the other side. But
Right.
What happens is that if you're too quick as a parent, right? My kid's depressed. It's been 2 weeks. I'm running right to the psychiatrist. I'm going to have him evaluated. A psychiatrist is trained to do their job, and their job is to ask you about 25 to 30 questions. They're going to score them. They're going to get a total at the bottom. It's going to see where you are with your anxiety, depression, and you're going to leave with a prescription for medications. And these medications could either help you or harm you because the side effects to most anxiety or depression medicines is anxiety or depressions and possible suicidal thoughts.
Ideations, right? Suicide. And in fact, the idea that you would take a drug as powerful as an SSRI and give it to a still forming brain. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, your brain is still forming in your teenage years. Yeah. And then alter brain chemistry so dramatically. That's a horrible, and let's be clear about SSRIs don't work for the majority of people who take them. However, what they do is they distract you. Mm-hmm. If you had a pain in your shoulder and I stomped on your foot, the pain in your shoulder wouldn't bother you anymore because the immediate reaction would be, oh my God, my foot hurts so much worse. Well, when you take SSRIs, they numb you. So you don't feel sad, but you don't feel happy, and you don't feel glad, and you don't feel motivated, and you don't feel like doing anything. And so if the answer is to turn your child into a zombie, let's be honest, SSRIs is just a chemical frontal lobotomy. that can be removed.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that doctors who prescribe SSRIs to their teenage students, teenage patients,
Mm-hmm.
recklessly, willy-nilly like that should all lose their licenses. They all should. It's
Yeah, and think about a regular MD can prescribe SS. I don't know all the fancy language you use. Just an MD does. You don't have to go to a psychiatrist. They just go to. They have higher level, more potent drugs that they can give you. And I'll be just real honest and open and raw and real with your audience. After losing my daughter traumatically like that, I was struggling with mental health issues. I found her, so I have PTSD now, which comes with anxiety and depression. And I had to go get evaluated because of long-term disability, short-term disability, and I walked out of there with 4 medications. And some of the medications that I have are the same ones they gave to Bella, and it put me into a zombie loop. I mean, seriously, the first day I took them, and they told me, it's going to take 10 days, so you might feel really strange. My best friend called me. And I don't remember the conversation. He thought I was actually drunk or high because of these medications just put my mind into this loop. And I thought, they had my daughter on these medications? I wondered why she was thinking, and acting out the way she was. It was unbelievable what I experienced personally. And she was just 17 years old. And like you said, their brain is forming till you're 24, 25 years old.
So let's talk about Nothing Hidden. So Nothing Hidden is an organization that you and your wife, Tracy, started in an effort to try to reach out to parents and give them some tools. So one of the things that you've learned and that you talk about is brain mapping and biofeedback, right?
Yes.
You also talk about getting blood work done on these children, lab work. Talk about those two components and how they work together.
Yeah, what we call it is the maze of mental health treatment options, and parents get stuck in them or give up because there's so much. So one is, the fact is, and you can speak into this, if your kid's depressed, okay, don't go run out and put them on depression medicine. Go to a good doctor who's going to do a good blood panel. And you might need to be the one who actually tells the doctor what to do. You need to advocate for your kid.
Right.
One is vitamin D. If you have a vitamin D deficiency, that equals depression. We lived in South Florida for 25 years before moving to Tennessee. Our first winter, I went into a deep depression. First thing I did is went to the doctor and said, when you do my blood workup, I want vitamin D checked. I was at like 20%. It needs to be 30 to 40. Gave me mega dose of vitamin C. In 2 weeks, I was out of my depressive
He gave you a mega dose of vitamin D, right?
Vitamin D, yeah. So you got to do the right blood panels, but you need to advocate for your kid what you want those blood panels to be. You need to check thyroid. You need to check your vitamin D. Folic acid is essential for brain health. You need to be the one who tells them exactly what to do. And you start there, because if it's just something biologically that's going on that some supplements can take care of, that's a huge win, because the last thing you want to do is get them on medications.
Right. So let's talk about the blood work for a second. So one of the things that parents need to pay attention to is this. Earlier in the show, I mentioned how most children who have schizophrenia, it doesn't start until that puberty age. Most children who develop anxiety and depression, it doesn't happen until that age of puberty. And there's a reason for this too, especially because we're going to dip into in a second the role of traumatic brain injury that goes undiagnosed in these children. But when sex hormones are expected to be present in the body, this is during puberty, and they don't show up, or one shows up too high and one doesn't show up high enough, this almost always leads to mental illness. Almost always.
Absolutely.
So anxiety can, one of the biggest things that causes anxiety is a combination of what I call in situ insulin resistance and blood sugar management trouble. And what I mean by that is when women go through menopause, Many of them suffer hot flashes or hot flushes, whatever you want to call it. These are exclusively created by blood sugar swings. When you have a hypoglycemic episode, if you look up on Google hypoglycemic symptoms, the first one is anxiety. The second one is sweating. The third one is tremor. The fourth one is passing out. Okay? So those first three, anxiety, sweating, tremor. So what does a woman go through when they go through menopause? They say, I have a hot flash. What's a hot flash? I feel like I'm on fire. I start to sweat. I can't stop. What else? Oh, I can't sleep anymore. Why? Because I wake up in the middle of the night with terrible anxiety. This is because of blood sugar, wild swings. Why? Because progesterone and estrogen create a push-pull on managing blood sugar. Don't believe it? What do you think PMS is? PMS is when progesterone goes through the roof as you near your period, and all of a sudden you feel angry and agitated all the time. It's because all of a sudden your blood sugar is all over the place. You don't know it because you're not checking your blood sugar and going, oh my God, I didn't eat anything for 6 hours. Why is my blood sugar 140? Or I just ate 10 minutes ago. My blood sugar is 63. What's going on with me? So I'm going to string this together slowly for parents listening. Puberty, there should be hormones coming up. When they don't come up, anxiety sets in. Why? Because now the blood sugar is all over the place and children have anxiety for no reason at all. They can't figure it out. So let's stay with those two steps there. So as you advocate brain mapping, but especially brain mapping because you're now telling people to suspect TBI. Talk about that.
Yeah. And the way we've really learned it was, again, on the back end here. So neurofeedback is a solution to that. But what we learned was that our daughter had 3 traumatic brain injuries, and one was from being pulled out of the womb with forceps. Second was when she was 3 years old and fell back in a chair and busted open the backside of her head on the corner of a table. And then about 3 years later, she fell out of a tree about probably 6 feet and landed on the backside of that head again. And so who really would think that that's what's leading to her?
Yeah, she got up and walked away from all
mental illness.
Right.
And so, again, on the back end, we learned that, and we finally brought her to have a brain mapping done. They saw what they call swirls or hurricanes, or where those injuries were. And with neurofeedback, they're able to pinpoint. I mean, it's a very specific, detailed science and mapping of the brain, and tell you in the first session with the graphs and everything that they have, what they're dealing with. And it matched up, 100%, literally 100%.
Where those injuries were. Right.
Yeah.
But let's talk about. I've done shows about traumatic brain injury over the years, and one of the most brilliant guys that I've ever worked with about TBI is a doctor named Dr. Mark Gordon, who shifted his focus away from anti-aging medicine. He has a place in Beverly Hills, California called Millennium Healthcare, and he used to be the go-to anti-aging doctor for all the stars and wealthy people in California. And what he discovered was he was treating people with anti-aging medicine who also had TBI, and they were getting better. Their TBI symptoms were going away. And now all he does is TBI. He works with NFL football players. He works with the military. He actually has a relationship directly with the DOJ. They're looking at brains going in and coming out of the military to identify guys who are at risk of traumatic brain injury. So let's talk about what TBI is. When we think about TBI, we think, oh, you got a bang in your head, your brain heals, you're okay. No, that's not what happens. Anytime you have TBI, let me tell you something that Mark said on my show probably 8-10 years ago. You know those dental X-ray machines that go around your head to take the whole round? Do you know that they can actually shut your pituitary down and develop TBI? What TBI is is the cessation of the production of critical hormones because of trauma to the brain. Now think about this. Let's piece the two pieces together. So I said puberty, hormones are expected. Those hormones don't show up. And then the child ends up manifesting these behaviors, and all we do is treat the behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that TBI plays into this is because TBI is the reason that the hormones don't show up when they go through puberty. We know this now from Dr. Mark Gordon's work. If you disrupt the pituitary and the hypothalamus, you can forget about producing growth hormone. You can forget about producing testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, all of those hormones that are signaled by the brain to the gonads, to the ovaries, to the thyroid. They don't get the signal, so they don't produce anything. So these children manifest behaviors that are almost exclusively and primarily caused by hormone imbalances. And no one would think about it. They would think, well, why should I give a 17-year-old girl sex hormone analysis? Well, if she suffered a TBI, there's a good reason, because she's probably not producing the hormones that she needs.
You know, and Carl, what I realized too, talking to a lot of parents, when you think TBI or you tell them traumatic brain injury, they're thinking something that's like, you know, a car accident, you know, the kid's skull got ripped open, but concussions also too fall into that category, because a concussion can be from mild to medium to a high level. And I think that gets overlooked by parents, especially sports concussions with kids when they're, you know, just playing football. Is a whole nother conversation.
Well, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about some of the problems that parents face. Some of the problems parents face, they create themselves, because I can talk about this firsthand, because my oldest daughter, someone said to us that she needed medication, and I didn't want to stigmatize her with a diagnosis that would have stuck with her for the rest of her life. And I think a lot of parents are afraid to talk about this in the first place, because they feel like back in the old days, like, oh, your kid is possessed by demons. You don't want anybody to know that. And that really is what Nothing Hidden is about, right? It's getting parents to openly discuss, search for answers, and not be stigmatized by this. Am I correct on that?
Absolutely. We're not afraid or ashamed to talk about mental illness, and we want to cause parents and people, everyone to rethink mental illness.
Yeah.
You know, we treat cancer, we treat heart conditions,
diabetes,
we treat diabetes, but we don't look at mental illness as something that needs to be treated.
Yes, and that can be treated by looking at the body and not necessarily the brain itself.
Yeah,
that's really the magic there. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Before we go that, we've set up a link. If you are a parent or know someone who wants to connect with the Nothing Hidden organization, we have a special link. It's called shrnetwork.biz/Nothing Hidden, or you can go to nothinghidden.org, reach out to them, communicate with them. If you have a child that you think is at risk, do something about it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Trace, this screen got all weird on me.
Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000. Or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ads today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High quality, pasture raised, great tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose to tail selection. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Getting a massage post-workout is a proven strategy to facilitate better recovery. Getting to massage therapists can be difficult and expensive, especially in these times. The solution is the Meteor, a heated massage ball from Milestorm. Reduce pain and soreness and expedite recovery with the Meteor's research-backed vibration settings and therapeutic heat. It's convenient for travel and works on any body part. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Meteor and use code SHR15 for 15% off and free shipping if you buy 2 or more. Start recovering better today. By now, you're aware of the cognitive benefits of nootropics. My friends over at Pure Nootropics are giving my listeners 10 to 30% off their already great prices on over 70 high-quality nootropics. Stock up on DHM so you can feel good after your holiday celebration, or try the Superhuman Stack to boost your brain and energize your day. Go to shrnetwork.biz/pure, that's PURE, and start saving today. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Sorry, I'm using my Meteor. When my nose gets stuffed, I put it on the low setting. You can hear it. And I just hold it on the between my eyes and the bridge of my nose, and my nose opens right up. It's amazing. This thing is amazing. I carry it around with me. It's a vibration ball. They're a sponsor of ours. I put it in the crook of my back when I'm sitting here too long. I roll it in the back of my neck. But the biggest thing is when my nose starts getting stuffed, I just hold it on my forehead and my bridge of my nose, and my nostrils open right up. It's an amazing device. shrnetwork.biz/Meteor. Fantastic. I carry it everywhere with me. Anyway, so we're talking about the parent side of this dilemma. A lot of parents don't want to talk about it because they don't want to stigmatize. It's almost like back in the old days where if you talked about it, somebody's going to think your child is possessed or a demon. Mm. So everybody kind of keeps this to themselves. You know, it's almost like we used to joke when we were kids, oh, you know, so-and-so has a crazy aunt that they keep up in the attic, you know. But really, it's sad that mental illness has become stigmatized like that. And parents, sadly, don't really want to take action a lot of times. And maybe they don't even want to acknowledge it. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's where our name birthed from, was Nothing Hidden. And it's if you're a teenager, or if you're just a person and you're struggling and your thoughts are dark, and you got to talk to somebody, don't keep those thoughts hidden. Then second was concept to Nothing Hidden was parents, when you find out or you've observed or your kid has come to you and shared that they're struggling with mental health conditions, parent, you can't keep that hidden. You need to take action. You need to talk to somebody. You got to find professional help. But I think, I mean, parents, they could be embarrassed. It could be pride that holds them back. Oh my goodness, I don't want my clients, if you're a financial advisor or somebody in a high net wealth category, what are people going to think if they find out that my kid has got clinical depression and is on medications? So I think it could be that. And then a lot of times they just don't know what to do.
Right.
And then often you go into denial, Carl. I mean, Denial seems probably to be the easiest route for a parent, and that's probably why the statistic is 10 to 11 years from onset to treatment. That a statistic, that's a fact. And so there's parents, you'll go through shame. Did I do something to cause this? So you got to deal with that and wrestle with that shame within you. The wrestle within, again, was I a bad parent? And then you start believing you are a bad parent. And then you go into this whole looping of thoughts yourself that will keep you from making a move or picking up the phone and calling somebody or going to a counselor. So it's all of those things. Absolutely.
What about what role do the children have? So do you think children openly come to their parents and say, I think there's something wrong with me? I don't think they do. Do you think do you think that they do that?
That's a great question. No, they don't. And let me use this as an example with Bella. So we know now that Bella's mental health really probably started more around that 6 to 8 year old from the 3 traumatic brain injuries we talked about. So Bella never knew what it was like to feel right, to have the right type of emotional balance, to process emotions and information, hardships of life that come her way. So how is she going to come and tell us something was wrong with her when she never knew what it was to be right?
Right.
You know what I mean? I had a friend who had a nervous breakdown at 30, and they're doing great now because they knew what it was to feel right. The doctors were able to work with her and get her on the right medications, so that she knew that I feel like myself again. So I think there's a category of kids that never come to their parent, especially if it's occurred at an early age. But then we have the kids who are struggling. And look, let's be frank, man. Maybe they just got a bad relationship with their parents. So why in the heck are they going to go talk with their parents? They don't even like their parents, right?
And that was the next thing, right? So a lot of parents, at least when I was a kid, my father was fairly heavy-handed. I didn't think I could come to him and talk to him about certain things. A lot of parents who feel that, hey, you got to be, you can't be your child's friend. They got to respect you. Aren't they creating a larger chasm for that child to even cross over, just to even open up?
Yeah. And that, I grew up same as you, with that same philosophy of parenting. We call it at Nothing Hidden. You need to be a connected parent. You need to have a connection with your kid so that they will come to you and be willing to share what's going on with them. If that relationship's beat up and they're not going to come to you, and you're observing things as a parent, then it's your responsibility now, I believe, as a parent to try and have a conversation with your kid. And nothinghidden.org on our website, we actually have a guide to parents' next steps. And there's 4 steps that parents can take, and one is the conversation. And we kind of coach parents through how to have that conversation. But if you have a relationship and your kid's not going to come to you, and you know that you trying to talk to them is just going to blow up, then you need to find a counselor, a youth worker. You need to find somebody who is going to be able to guide a conversation or step in for you and have that conversation with them. But a conversation needs to take place. But I think most kids may just be afraid to come to mom and dad, even if you do have a good conversation, because how are you going to respond? Are you going to think they're broken, that they're crazy, that something's wrong with them? And then they're scared. They're just scared because this isn't working properly. I can't process emotions. I'm struggling with my friend group. So there's so much in that. So much.
And then you offer parents opportunities you coach parents to help them, right? To kind of take better steps.
Yeah.
Talk about the coaching that you offer at Nothing Hidden.
Yeah, our coaching. The first thing we do is we want to talk really about, have you got the right blood work and the blood panels done for your child. Don't just go run to the medication. So we want to find out about the background. We're gonna talk more about natural ways to deal with mental illness, opposed to just running to the doctor and getting on medicines. And again, we're not a doctor, so we're not doctors, so we have to be careful with that. But our next step guide is number one: if you're observing mood swings, if you're observing behaviors from your child and it's concerning you, then our step two on those next step guide is that conversation, which we kind of just talked about, and how to have that conversation. It's got to be the right time. You don't go wake up your kid at 8 o'clock in the morning and tell them that you want to have a conversation about some things you're observing and you're concerned about them. No
Right.
teen wants to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's got to be the right timing, the right place. You have to have your questions already thought out, and you don't just go after them like, what's wrong with you? It's asking them questions and getting them to open up. So I guess what I'm saying is there's art to the conversation and the questions. Then our third step in our next step guide is the considerations, which I think is our most important, and we've already talked about a lot of that: vitamin D testing, hormone levels, the thyroid, having the right blood panel. Thinking back in their life, had they had concussions? Was there possible traumatic brain injuries that you need to consider? We didn't even talk about bullying. That is huge right now, and how that can actually affect the brain and cause trauma. Trauma is huge right now, especially with bullying, not just in school or flesh on flesh bullying, but cyberbullying. We could spend a half an hour on that. So we walk you through things you need to consider that are outside of the box, or your traditional MD or psychiatrist is not going to consider. That's huge. And then number 4 is, how do you take action? So we kind of want to get that parent out of this maze of mental health treatment options and get them to get out of that maze, consider their child individually and specifically, and take some steps, take action. Don't just sit back and wait. Well, the bottom line is, the longer you wait, then you're just allowing for a bad end result to occur. I don't mean to be harsh, but look, I'm being real. The more time you lose, you're just giving the end result that you don't want to see occur. And there's nothing else I can say than a parent's got to take action. You've got to.
So choosing the wrong doctor can be a real bad thing for your child, because if you choose a doctor who's quick to diagnose and give pills and this is it, what should parents look for when they start to talk to a physician to help them with their child's depression and anxiety? That should be a red flag. Like, we don't want to work with this guy or this gal.
Yeah, and that's something my wife is excellent at. When on our step 4 for Parents Guide, on our action steps, she talks about that, about doctors. I mean, she interviewed doctors. She would call. We went to doctors and left those doctors after one appointment. It's as finding the right doctor is work. It takes time, and you got to be willing to go to 4 different doctors till you find the right one. You have to do your own research. You need to connect with organizations and other people who have been through mental health issues with their kids. One thing we did, Carl, is I just thought of it, popped into my mind, was that we were early on focused on Bella's behavioral issues, because we didn't know it was a mental illness till 3 years into it. But at one point, when we just were like, we got to figure this thing out, we hired a life coach, came to our house weekly with another couple that had 2 kids that had behavioral issues. And that life coach just helped us get grounded, helped us take a deep breath to look at what was most important that was going on with Bella, and to take steps. So we took that concept and that training, or that season of our life that we had this life coach, and then developed Nothing Hidden out of that, but focused on mental health opposed to behavioral things. Now, with mental health comes behavioral. I mean, the statistics are pretty crazy out there. And I just saw this morning. Listen to this, Carl. It says that that 3 out of 4 children aged 3 to 17 years old with depression also have anxiety. So that's 73% of kids with depression also have anxiety, right? And out of that group, 1 out of 2 will have behavioral issues. And obviously those issues intensify as they get older, as a teenager, and they get into a car, and then they turn 18 and they can just flip you off and say, I'm out of here.
Right.
And so that's why we are passionate about helping parents early on. We like to say that we're pre-suicidal. If your kid's suicidal and they're talking about taking their life, that's not what Nothing Hidden does. You have to take immediate action, and you need to get to a professional. But we want to be pre-suicidal. That's not my term. I made that up myself.
Right.
But that is our mission. We want to help parents catch it in that 13, 14, 15-year-old stage, so that their child's life doesn't spin out of control and they just start to self-medicate. I mean, you think about the amount of teens that are using drugs and alcohol right now. There's no statistic or data out there yet of the percentage of kids using drugs and alcohol because they're self-medicating, because they have not been properly diagnosed with mental illness or gone through treatment. But my guess is it's at least 50%, if not more.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take our last commercial break. At the top of the hour, we're going to be joined by Will Harris. We're going to talk about a new way of farming and producing beef that actually makes the planet better. You know, I have all these people, they want to bash beef production. Oh, it's destroying the planet. Well, what if there's a way to produce beef that actually saves the planet? Then they got nothing to complain about. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about that later. You're listening to Superhuman Radio. We'll be right back. January is World Carnivore Month, and more people are finding the carnivore diet alleviates autoimmune disorders as well as digestive and gut problems. But there's one issue. The carnivore diet is called the low residue diet because you're not eating plants and you're not getting fiber, and the protein takes longer and longer to digest. They are very constipated in the early phases of their carnivore diet adventure. Well, I have the solution. It's a product by Bioptimizers called P3OM. P3OM is a probiotic that is specifically designed to digest protein. In fact, P3OM doubles its population in your gut every 20 minutes, making it easier and faster to digest the protein you're consuming on your carnivore diet. If you find the carnivore diet is hard for you to stick to, don't give up. Just add P3OM into the mix and you'll love it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/P3OM and use the code SUPERHUMAN, that's SUPERHUMAN, and save 10% off today. Serendipity. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor? Strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon One banner ad today. Are you ready to change the way you age? Of course you are. That's why you're here. Juvicel is a new first-of-its-kind dietary supplement that includes 10 key research-backed ingredients shown in studies to support lifespan. Things like resveratrol, fisetin, quercetin, pterostilbene, sulforaphane, turmeric, all in a single dose. You may have some of these ingredients already, but Juvicel is the first to combine them all into a single product to support your lifespan. It's vegan, non-GMO, and sustainable. Live better longer with Juvicel. Go to shrnetwork.biz/live better. Use code SHR and save 20% off today. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. So I want to take this conversation in an interesting direction. It just happens to be something I posted on Facebook today, actually. So I want to circle back to vitamin D for a second. Well, a lot of vitamin D research is driven by epidemiological population studies. They look at populations that live near the equator. They have lower cases of heart disease. They have lower cases of arteriosclerotic plaque buildup. They have lower cases of depression. They have healthier immune systems. They tend not to gain weight as easily. And so we look at that and we go, vitamin D. And many of the studies that have been carried out in science to examine the effectiveness of vitamin D replacement. I use that term specifically, right? If we're not out in the sun, we live in the East, or you're scared of the sun because you've been told it causes skin cancer, and the sun isn't what causes skin cancer any more than a book of matches starts house fires. There's more at play in skin cancer. It's not about the sun. The sun is an unwilling participant in the development of your skin cancer. I tell you that. I've done shows about it. But with that being the case, science goes, it's got to be vitamin D that's conveying all these benefits. So then they do studies. I remember one study we talked about on this show took postmenopausal women that suffered from seasonal affective disorder, and they gave them high doses of vitamin D, both in injection and orally, and their depression scores didn't change. There's shows that purported that high doses of vitamin D would lead to better weight loss and fat loss, and they didn't play out. The problem is, to use an analogy, if somebody is telling you the magic is in the peanut butter and jelly, but you're also eating the bread, you really don't know where the magic is, right? It could be in the bread. When you lay in the sun, your body does something else besides produce vitamin D. It stimulates a hormone called melanocortin stimulating hormone, MSH for short. MSH is what makes you tan. That's what makes your skin get darker. MSH, there are 4 melanocortin receptors on every cell. MSH can shut off inflammation immediately. Now think about this for a second. What a traumatic brain injury. You bang your head, your brain becomes inflamed. We now know, we're actually getting ready to do a show that shows that early head trauma may lead to brain tumors later on. Why? Because you have unrestricted collateral damage and inflammation. And inflammation disrupts the apoptotic landscape that tells old cells to die, and that turns on cancer. Okay. Melanocortin stimulating hormone may be more important It reduces depression. It increases libido. It stimulates changes in the gut microbiome that lead to leanness. It can actually clear arteriosclerotic plaque out of the veins and arteries. Clear it over you. You know, if you have arteriosclerosis and your doctor says, "Wow, you got 80% of this artery's clogged," move to Florida, move to Hawaii, move to Mexico, lay in the sun every day for a year, go back, and they'll go, where'd that plaque go? Where did it go? Melanocortin stimulating hormone stimulates the production of myelin, which is the covering on nerves. We have a lot of people who have neurodegenerative diseases today. The answer for them may be move to the sun and lay in the sun. Dermatologists have done a horrible job at scaring people. The sun has shaped us over millions of years. It actually contributed to the humans that we are today. And now all of a sudden we're afraid of it. Oh, no, don't go in the sun. It's no good for you. The reason I'm telling you this is because you can get melanotan-2. Melanotan-2 is a peptide. It was created by Arizona State University, for fair-skinned people to protect them from getting skin cancer when they went to the beach. You pre-treated with melanotan-2. You took injections of melanotan-2 for 2 weeks before you went to the beach. You got tan at home, real tan, legitimate tan, not spray tan. Then you went to the beach and you didn't burn. Well, melanotan-2 is 1,000 times stronger than the melanocortin stimulating hormone, the MSH, we produce endogenously. Small little tiny bits of it, 25, 50 micrograms a day, will not only give you a really nice tan and make you look good all year long, but will remove depression, remove inflammation. Keep in mind that major depressive disorder is now being thought of as a disease of brain inflammation. When the brain becomes inflamed, you become depressed. We just talked about it we talked about it over the years, but we just talked about it again last month. So one of the things you need to do, Jerry, is start reading about melanotan-2 and melanocortin stimulating hormone, because you may have yet another tool to offer your parents. And
awesome.
there's doctors out there who prescribe peptides. Most of them listen to my show. And they can actually prescribe an intranasal melanotan-2 for your child. And you use it for 2 or 3 weeks and see what happens. If all of a sudden you notice that the child seems lighter and happier and less, there's your answer.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the more natural and holistic options we can give parents, obviously the better, because we know that medicine is not the answer.
No, a drug that turns you into a zombie isn't solving your problems if you have anxiety and depression. It's just shifting your disorder from
That's
this
right.
to that. That's all it's doing. Yeah. All right, look, I want to plug the website one more time. There's 2 ways to get there. You can either go to shrnetwork.biz/nothinghidden or go to nothinghidden.org. Reach out to them. If you have a child at risk, if you have a way to contribute to their efforts, reach out to them. Let Jerry know you heard about him here on Superhuman Radio. Thank you for coming on the air today, being so honest about a very, very difficult subject for you to talk about. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Carl.
Take care, Jerry. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But yeah, I mean, I just did a rant on Facebook today about melanotan and melanocortin stimulating hormone, because there's people out there telling you that vitamin D will cure everything, and it doesn't. A lot of the heavy lifting that is attributed to vitamin D is actually being done by melanocortin stimulating hormone. So anybody could use it. I use it every morning. I take 2 puffs in each nostril. It's probably 200 micrograms of melanotan-2 each morning. I do. And I feel it. When I do it, I feel awake. I feel happier. I feel more alert. Great stuff. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about regenerative farming with Will Harris. Don't forget, listen to the secret word and you can win a box of tasty pastries. We'll be right back. TaylorMade Health is focused on making sure you're able to perform and look your best. They are a leader in game-changing supplements and cosmetic products. Whether you want to increase strength, expedite recovery, facilitate soft tissue repair, or reduce deep wrinkles, TaylorMade Health has you covered. TaylorMade Health is also the home to Dr. Seed's products such as BPC, BPC Plus, and the Children. All of my listeners can now get 20% off their first order with code TRY20. That's TRY20. This code can even be used on subscription orders. Visit shrnetwork.biz/try20 today and use code TRY20 for 20% off your first order. Getting a massage post-workout is a proven strategy to facilitate better recovery. Getting to massage therapists can be difficult and expensive, especially in these times. The solution is the Meteor, a heated massage ball from Milestorm. Reduce pain and soreness and expedite recovery with the Meteor's research-backed vibration settings and therapeutic heat. It's convenient for travel and works on any body part. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Meteor and use code SHR15 for 15% off and free shipping if you buy 2 or more. Start recovering better today. Serendipity. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20 to save 20% off your entire first order. January is World Carnivore, and more people are finding the carnivore diet alleviates the symptoms of autoimmune disorders as well as digestive and gut problems. But there's one issue. The carnivore diet is called the low residue diet because you're not eating plants and you're not getting fiber. And the protein takes longer and longer to digest. Some people notice that they are very constipated in the early phases of their carnivore diet adventure. Well, I have the solution. It's a product by Bioptimizers called P3OM. P3OM is a probiotic that is specifically designed to digest protein. In fact, P3OM doubles its population in your gut every 20 minutes, making it easier and faster to digest the protein you're consuming on your carnivore diet. If you find the carnivore diet is hard for you to stick to, don't give up. Just add P3OM into the mix and you'll love it. Go to shrnetwork.biz/P3OM and use the code SUPERHUMAN, that's SUPERHUMAN, and save 10% off today.
Spit that out right now. This is the Superhuman Channel.
Welcome back to Superhuman Radio. We're talking now with Will Harris from White Oak Pastures. They're a sponsor of ours. How you doing, Will? Oh, can you hear me? Oh, I think you might have your microphone muted. I think, there you go. There you go.
Oh, good. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, so now you're in Georgia, right?
I am.
Okay.
I'm in South Georgia, almost Alabama, almost Florida.
Okay. And so for a long time, the beef industry has been taking a beating, especially from some of the people on Capitol Hill about how raising beef is hurting the planet, destroying the planet. And the reality is that of all the things that you could farm, beef actually has the ability to make the planet better, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Not just beef, but ruminants. That would be cattle, sheep, and goats. You know, the earth evolved with large herds of ruminants eating grasses, the causing the grass to grow again, causing roots to slough off. Literally, the way all that oil and gas and coal got sequestered in the ground was all the systems of nature working properly in the day of the dinosaur.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. So for years, we've been hearing about sustainable farming, right? So first it was organic, then it was sustainable. What is regenerative farming, Will?
Regenerative farming is restarting the cycles of nature. The cycles of nature are, to list a few, the carbon cycle, the energy cycle from the sun, the water cycle, the mineral cycle, the microbial cycle, the grazing cycle, other cycles that we probably aren't smart enough to recognize. And when all those cycles are operating properly, land yields an abundance. The abundance is what we live on. And then again, it's how all that fossil fuel got sequestered down there. When we humans, through technology, became so powerful, we were the first species to be able to break those cycles of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, things went into a reversal. Instead of bringing carbon out of the greenhouse gases and putting it into the soil, we started burning the fossil fuels and putting it back into the atmosphere. And probably even more, that's most evident. When we cultivated these soils and put chemical fertilizers and pesticides on them, we further exacerbated that release of carbon. And we did what we have done. It was not the cattle that did it. We say it wasn't the cow, it's the how.
I like that. It's not the cow, it's the how. So talk about how you raise cattle there. You have some of the most amazing beef I've ever tasted. It's interesting because you're doing it in a way that doesn't impair the quality of the beef. I used to have a Mennonite farmer that I used to buy grass-fed beef from, and it smelled like wet dog. I don't know why. It was just tough and sinewy, and it just wasn't enjoyable. So that's an example of trying to do the right thing, but the product doesn't really come out right. In your case, you're doing the right thing, but the product comes out right. Talk about how you do things differently at White Oak Pastures.
Well, the way we used to farm is a very linear model. We call it the factory farming model. Factories are complicated, farms are complex. Mm-hmm. And when many of us left the linear, complicated factory model, we changed a couple of things and thought we'd get a very different result. That's not the way it worked. If I farmed the way I used to and ceased feeding corn to the cattle, that's not enough. You've got to change the entire system and make it cyclical as opposed to linear, which means the genetics of the cattle are different. The management of the land is very, very different. What we do here is the emulation of nature. We call it biomimicry. We move our livestock every single day, our cattle every single day to another location, emulating the
graze, the walking and grazing,
plains or caribou on the tundra or elands and gazelles in the Serengeti.
Yeah,
all of those are that movement in nature is a very slow chase. There are predators back there, be it wolves or lions or polar bears, moving those herds of ruminants across the landscape. And that's what we do here. We move the cattle every day. We take the role of the predator, pushing them to the next place. Their impact on the land they're on is great. Hard impact. A lot of urination, a lot of defecation, a lot of those cloven hooves pushing plant material.
Aerating the land too.
Correct. That's right. Feeding those microbes in the soil. But then it's essential that there's a very long recovery time. In some climates, it may be only once a year that a parcel is grazed. I'm in a part of the world that gets 52 inches of rain a year, so we're able to graze it multiple times. But the biomimicry, emulation of nature is a fundamental that's the same.
What about the processing of the beef? Is the way you do it different than a factory farm?
Well, it's very different. We love closing loops, so we built a USDA inspected red meat slaughter plant and a USDA inspected poultry slaughter plant here on the farm. So we raise the animals here, we slaughter them here, process them here. We've actually got our order fulfillment center here. So when a person orders our beef or pork or chicken or lamb or turkey or honey or eggs or frozen vegetables online, we actually fill the order here on the farm.
Wow.
It's a really, I feel blessed to have had this opportunity on my watch. My family's been on this farm for 6 generations. And my father's generation post World War II did the industrialization, commoditization, centralization that produces 90 whatever percent of the food in this country. It was only on my watch that I was able to move the model back to the emulation of nature. And now I've got 2 daughters and their spouses here helping me do that. And they've got 3 babies who are the 6th generation of my family on this farm.
So your farm was established, correct me if I'm wrong, in 1886, is that right?
1866.
Oh my goodness, 20 years even earlier, 1866. Was it always cattle? Did you grow anything else? That's
kind of my favorite part of this farm story. When my great grandfather came here 150 something years ago, he would have operated this farm as a multi-species farm. He would have like us today. We have cows, hogs, sheep, goats, rabbits, chickens, turkeys, geese, guineas, ducks, organic vegetables, pastured eggs, honey, taking advantage of the full abundance that the land provided. He would have processed on the farm and distributed locally. My grandfather ran it the same way. My father took over the farm in 1946, post-World War II, and that's when things really changed. The industrialization, commoditization, centralization I mentioned. And on his watch, it became a monoculture of only cattle. And he ran the farm that way for years. I went to the University of Georgia. I majored in animal science. I came home and further industrialized, commoditized, centralized as a monoculture, only cattle. In the mid-90s, I started moving back to a model that resembled what my great-grandfather did a whole lot more than it did what my father and I had been doing. And it has really been rewarding for me. I don't believe my daughters would have come back if I'd stayed in that industrial factory farm model.
How hard is it for a farmer to do what you did? I mean, that seems like a really radical thing to do. Is it easy? Is it one day you say, well, we're just going to change the way we do? I would imagine that it takes years to evolve into that older model.
Well, we're 25 years in and we're still evolving. We change every day. No, it's not easy, but it's very rewarding.
So the truth of the matter is what you do today is harder to do. And so the benefits to you, they're not monetary benefits. They're why are you so in love with this style of farming?
Well, the first thing I say is it harder to do? I question that. I don't think it's harder to do. It's very different. And it's say in the industrial model, we traded resilience for efficiency.
Right.
And it was a bad swap. It was a really, really bad trade. And what we've done is move back into that more resilient model, and we enjoy it a lot more. And it's been rewarding. When I was an industrial cattle farmer in the early 90s, I had 3 or 4 employees. I sold a little over $1 million worth of cattle, live cattle a year. and we made money. It was fine. It was profitable. We weren't rich people, but we were comfortable. I paid taxes every year. Fast forward to now, we've got 176 employees, largest private employer in the county, and we sell those products I've listed for you a couple of times online to consumers who are increasingly like members of my community all over the country. And that's just way more rewarding. The hard part for farmers doing this is the industrial model is low risk, low reward. There's really not much risk in farming industrially due to the programs the government set up and those kinds of things. We can talk about that all day. But it's low risk, it's low return, and very tight margins. What we do today is very high risk. Very high risk. A lot can go wrong in this model. Mm-hmm. But the reward has been, monetarily, has been that we're able to make it work, and it's made quite a benefit to the local economy here. We can talk about that. And it's just so much more pleasant. And again, there wouldn't be a fifth generation here if I'd kept doing what.
Yeah.
And the statistics show that. I mean, how many farms are around that are 6 generations in? And the answer is not many.
No. So before we talk about ruralization, I want to talk about raising hogs for a second. Mm-hmm. Pork has gotten a really bad rap. It's a great meat. But part of the problem with pork, as I see it, is when I was a young man, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. Mm-hmm. And they had a really big hog farmer out in the middle of nowhere. And he went ahead and he bought these big industrial garbage trucks. And he used to cart the food waste from the casinos for nothing. He cut a deal with the casinos. He says, I'll cart all your food waste away. And because he took all that food waste and he fed it to his hogs. Now, a lot of that food waste was hot dogs and, just real bad food and who knows what else. And when I saw that, I thought, man, I don't know that I'd ever want to eat pork if that's what they eat. But that's not what you do. I mean, I know a lot of pig farmers, they'll pick up waste products to feed to their pigs. Hell, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and there's an Old Forester distillery not far from me, and they sell that mash, or they give that mash to a hog farmer that I know of. He happened to be that Mennonite guy that I used to buy beef from. He used to go and cart all that mash away and feed it to his hogs. Hogs are designed to graze, aren't they? Just like cattle?
Well, not exactly just like cattle, but the crux of what you said is right. Hogs are monogastrics, like you and I. They have a single chambered stomach that digests its food through in acid and enzymes breaking the food down. And similar with poultry. Cows, hogs, and sheep are ruminants, which is very different. They're designed to eat cellulose. Hogs so cows are herbivores, hogs and us are omnivores, which means, but that's just a technicality. Is what you said is correct. And animals have a natural diet. I know a little bit about what you do and what you advocate for. And in the case of us humans, Cheetos and Oreos are not the natural diet that we humans evolved on. So maybe a little something wrong with living on that. Maybe. Similarly, hogs evolved eating certain things. And those certain things is not those hot dogs from the
casino.
In fact, hot dogs for the most part are made from pork. So you're feeding pork back to pork, and there's a heck of a lot.
And we see what happened with cows when they were feeding cows back to cows, and then we had that Epstein-Barr syndrome in cows. What did they call it again? I forget what it was. That bad cow.
BSE.
Yeah.
Bovine spongitis encephalopathy.
Right.
Bad cow disease for sure. At any length, animals have natural diets, and when you move, including people in that, and when you move away from those natural diets, you bring a lot of potential unintended consequences into the program. And those unintended consequences almost certainly will be unnoticed for a long time and unwanted when you do, when they do become evident. So, in terms of, we can talk about diet, but it's easy to think, easier for a lot of people that aren't animal centric to think of it in terms of the welfare. When when I was in the University of Georgia, majoring in animal science, College of Agriculture, good animal welfare meant you keep them well fed, you keep them watered, you keep them in a reasonable temperature range, and you don't intentionally inflict pain and suffering. If you hit those 4 boxes, you're good. That's good animal welfare.
Right.
But in fact, it's not. Cows were born to roam and graze. Hogs were born to root and wallow. Chickens were born to scratch and peck. And those are instinctive behaviors. And the industrial confinement model does not allow the animal to have those instinctive behaviors, even though it hit the 4 boxes.
Right.
And when you deprive that animal of the opportunity to express those instinctive behaviors, it is under stress, low stress, 24/7. It's like you've been in solitary confinement.
Right.
So when we humans rethink things to make it efficient, make it very linear, we put ourselves in a position where we can scale it up where there are unintended consequences. And that's true with changing the diet. It's true with confinement, and so on.
So all of the animal protein that you sell at White Oak Pastures, it all originates on your farm. Do you buy animals from other farmers?
We raise all our own animals with the exception of cattle. We have a producer group of my local friends and neighbors that raise cattle for us under our protocol.
Under your protocol, right.
But we slaughter nothing in our slaughterhouse except animals that are from our farm or our local producer group.
Okay. Talk about ruralization. Why is that so important to you? You said you have like 150 employees now. You're the largest employer in the county. Why was that so important to you?
Well, it became important to me. Our 3 basic tenets are animal welfare, regenerative land management, and re-enrichment of this local community. The first 2, the animal welfare and the land management, were very intentional decisions that we made. We want to move away from what we're doing. We want to move in that direction. And we studied it, learned, implemented. Some worked, some didn't. We rethought it. Very intentional, and we made a lot of progress. I was very happy with it. The revitalization of the little rural community was quite by accident. We never set out to do that. Very unintentional. We never said, let's try to fix this little town. Let's become a ghost town. We never did that. We weren't so presumptuous as to think we would be able to.
Right.
But when we changed the animal welfare and the land management, we wound up attracting wonderful people, not people that worked on the farm because they couldn't do anything else. People that chose to come here from all over the country and actually internationally. And they came here. They were energetic, passionate. They needed a place to eat and sleep and drink and play and shop. So we built those. And we looked up and said, wow, we got a nice little town here. We're very small, but we have a town that has a quality of life that I would say is as good as there is on the planet. And it's a destination. We built a restaurant and lodging cabins and a store, and because it's a destination, people come here, and I'm honored by that.
That's a fascinating story. That really, really is.
Well, and it's highly replicatable. It's highly replicatable. You know, it's not scalable like a factory.
Right.
It's highly replicatable. And there should be one or two or three white oak pastures in every agricultural county in this nation.
So do you ever think about, do you ever travel and lecture about how this phenomenon occurred to other farmers who maybe have the wherewithal to do what you did?
I'd rather be whipped with a piece of barbed wire than go somewhere and speak. We do a number of these kinds of things.
Right.
And when I get through talking to you, I can be back in the pasture in 15 minutes. So it's,
right.
We do have an internship program that is very, very popular. We probably get 25 or 30 applications for 6 slots. We do that 4 times a year. We're doing more. We have a lot of visitors. We have cabins here on the farm. We have a restaurant, a store, and people come here. And most of the people that come here are either foodies or farmies. They come here to learn where the food comes from. Come here to learn how to produce it in this regenerative manner.
I want to plug the website real quick too. So we have a special link. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak and use code SHR20, you save 20% off on orders up to $100. And now I didn't even realize that you have rabbit. I've wanted to make Hassenpfeffer for the past 10 years. I have a recipe someplace for it. I'm going to order some rabbit. Talk about some of the other. I mean, obviously, beef is your flagship. Let's say you have fantastic beef, but talk about some of the other animal proteins that you think people are missing out on that maybe they don't eat anymore.
Well, beef is the girl that brought us to the party for sure. We were beef-centric for 50 years or more. But the other species, we raise the other species for 2 reasons. One is it broadens our product line so people can get more stuff from us, which is great. But the other thing is every animal has a different impact on the land.
Right.
There's that we rail against monocultures. In nature, the monoculture does not exist.
Right.
Nature abhors a monoculture. I learned in physics, nature abhors a vacuum. Nature also abhors a monoculture.
Okay.
So having these other species for the impact they have on the land is beneficial. And every culture, different cultures have different preferences in terms of the proteins, and then we recognize that, and it's given us members of our community from all over the country of different ethnicities, and we're grateful for that. We appreciate it because we need those animals on the farm, and when we raise them, we need a way to monetize it. So we're very grateful to have Mediterranean people that want goat and Oriental people that want duck, and it goes down the line what historically people eat. We're the largest sheep producer in Georgia. I never had lamb until I was a 50-year-old man and bought a bunch of sheep and tasted it because it's outside my culture.
Right.
What is interesting, you asked about different species. What's interesting though is how the organ meat appetite has increased dramatically.
Yeah.
When I first built my packing plant almost 15 years ago, we threw away a lot of organ meats, a lot of livers and pancreas and hearts, and just a lot of, there's no market for it. And today, you'll notice on our website, we stay out of a lot of those organs, testicles. You just can't keep enough. And sadly, you'll see that rabbit, I think, is probably out right now. We struggle to raise enough rabbit.
See, I'm Italian, and my grandparents are from Italy, so I was exposed to organ meats at a very, very young age. And every year, my grandfather Valerio would slaughter a lamb, and they made food out of every part of that lamb, including the blood. They used to put the blood in what looked like a bread tin. And my grandfather would add wine to it, and they'd bake it in the oven. They called that sanguinaccio, and it slices like liver, and it's very sweet and it's delicious. They baked the head. My grandmother would take the skin off the face, and they'd season it and put it in the oven and bake it. I've eaten the brains from from that delicacy. That's called capezzella in Italian, the lamb's head. And my grandmother used to make tripe and peas all the time. That's the stomach. And it's amazing because there's a rebirth in the interest. A couple good books. Sally Fallon from Weston A. Price Foundation published a book several years ago. She came on the show about using the organ meat and eating the whole animal. And I'll tell you what, so if all you eat is muscle meat, you get a higher level of methionine, the amino acid methionine in your body. And methionine is associated with rapid aging in humans. But the thing that reduces the impact of methionine is another amino acid called glycine. And you get glycine from soft tissue, the tougher cuts of meat, some of the organ meats. And so we've missed the boat as a species when we started just eating the steak. It was a big mistake. But the old timers, they knew. The old timers were eating organ meat because you ate as much of that animal as you possibly could without wasting any of it.
And to make it even a little more atavistic than that, I told you that we're big on emulation of nature. And when a pack of coyotes takes down a calf in the field, the first night they eviscerate it. The first night they eat everything from the anus to the gullet.
Yes, I know.
If I don't move the carcass, if I don't find it, the next night they'll come back and start chewing on the muscle meat.
Right.
They instinctively know where the nutrients are. They didn't know they were coming back, so they didn't leave the best for last.
I've talked about that phenomenon on this show over the past 14 years because I'm an avid hunter. And anytime coy dogs or coyotes would run down a deer, they would eat the offal. They'd eat all the belly and all the intestines and all that sort of stuff. And you think to yourself, wow, why wouldn't they eat that big ham on the back? And they didn't want that. They wanted what was inside that belly, what's inside that cavity. It's amazing. Amazing.
And I respect what you said about no waste. One thing we're very proud of is we generate about 9 tons a day, 5 days a week, of what's called packing plant waste. It's what's not marketable. USDA won't let us sell it. Part of that is the eviscerate, the gut fill, heads, the bones that aren't fit for soup bones. We sell a lot of bones for soup, and we make a lot of broth. But whatever can't be marketed is composted and put back on the land. And it's incredible what it does for our land. It's back on that birth, growth, death, decay. Birth, growth, death, decay. Birth, growth. It's one of the cycles of nature that we talked about earlier.
Right.
And being able to further boost our soil that it becomes so depleted and degraded using chemical fertilizers and pesticides for so many years. And it brings it back to that healthy, organic medium that's just teeming with life instead of that dead mineral medium that is dirt.
Last question I want to ask you, and then we'll plug the website again. I'm a huge proponent of feeding dogs raw food. When I tell people this, they go, oh, but raw chicken? And I say, who's pulling the bones out of a wolf's throat? Nobody. Why? Because it's not cooked. When you cook it, it splinters, but an animal can eat raw bones all day long. So do you offer some of that waste that you can't sell for human consumption? Could that be sold for dogs?
Everything. We do sell raw food for dogs. The parts that we can't, everything that we sell to dogs was suitable for human consumption. And there's some regulatory rules why we choose to do that. But to support your what you said, my office used to be at our processing plant.
Okay.
And the dog went to work with me every day, and I didn't feed him. I said he lives on ground meat. That's the meat he finds on the ground. Plant meat, what he could find, and he was beautiful. People complimented how good Bud looked. I moved my office to Bluffton. I'm in the old courthouse, one-room courthouse here now. And I was feeding him food, store-bought kibble dog food, and he looked awful. He just looked terrible. I mean, it's just incredible how quickly his health went down. He's a young dog.
Yes.
I started back feeding him offal from the plant, our pet grinds we make. And in a very short period of time, he was just beautiful again. It was incredible. I wish I'd been smart enough to do before and after, but I'm not going to put him through it to get a photo op.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, this comes back to talking about the appropriate diet for a species. You know, most of these kibble dog foods have corn in them. And I don't know any farmer who ever opened up his back door and said, those darn dogs ate all my corn again. You know, dogs don't eat corn. They don't eat wheat, you know, and it's just silly that we feed these pets. We love these animals. People love their animals like their children, but yet they're feeding them a diet that's speeding them along to death. The number one killer of Labrador retrievers and golden retrievers today is cancer. The number one killer. The number one disorder of most domesticated dogs today is diabetes. We feed them like we eat. They get the diseases that we have. It's so simple. They had to euthanize a bear in the San Diego Zoo about 6 years ago because he developed congestive heart failure. No bear in the wilderness develops congestive heart failure. Why? Because they feed him Purina bear chow. I mean, you feed these animals the crap that they're not designed to eat, they get the same diseases we do because we eat stuff we're not designed to eat. It's a full circle. Full circle.
Another point on the board for biomimicry.
Yeah, there you go. I want to thank you for two things. I want to thank you for making time. I know you're busy, for coming on the show today and talking about this. Also, I want to thank you for giving the show a try. I just want to put this back up for the audience to see. Go shopping today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/white oak. Use the code SHR20. Save 20% off on orders up to $100. I mean, think about this. Rabbit. My mother used to make the best lamb chops. I'm going to get some lamb. I love lamb chops. They're the best. Thanks for being here today, Will.
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you having me on.
Take care. And that's it for today. I'm off tomorrow, but we'll be back next week with lots of great shows. Don't forget, did you hear the secret word? It ran twice in 2 different commercial breaks. If you heard the secret word, email it to me at onair@superhumanradio.net. You'll win a box of cake-flavored tasty pastries, birthday cake-flavored tasty pastries. There's a winner every day. Don't delay. Do it now. And we'll see you Monday with more Superhuman Radio. Thanks for being here today.